The colony on the distant planet was teetering on the edge of collapse. For years, humanity had struggled to maintain peace with the ruthless alien empire known as the Scifi. Despite all their efforts, the empire's grip on the galaxy grew tighter, and their demands became more brutal with every passing day. Earth's leaders had tried everything: diplomatic talks, offers of resources, even military resistance, but none of it had worked. The Scifi were a force beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. In desperation, a new proposal was made. The leaders of the human colony decided that the only way to survive was to offer the Scifi something they valued most: a human tribute. Lucas Rayner, a decorated soldier, was the one chosen for the task. He had never imagined himself in this position, not in his wildest dreams, but there he was, standing in the center of the bustling human spaceport, ready to board a transport ship, bound for the heart of the Scifi Empire. His mind raced with questions. Was he really the best candidate? What would he face once he arrived? And what was this tribute meant to achieve? The choice had not been his, but in a way, Lucas knew this was his duty. A soldier didn't ask questions. They followed orders. This wasn't about him anymore. This was for the survival of his people. He would go and do whatever was necessary. The journey through space was long and silent. There were no words of comfort from the crew. No one spoke of what would happen when they arrived. It was as if they were all afraid to acknowledge what lay ahead. As the sleek starship approached the Scifi planet, Lucas gazed out of the observation window, his heart pounding in his chest. The planet beneath him was nothing like Earth. It was a world of black oceans and metallic cities that rose up from the surface like jagged towers of steel. The sky was a sickly green, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. It was a place of power, of intimidation, a planet that looked as though it had been built to crush any who dared stand against it. And here he was, a lone human being, sent to stand before the rulers of this terrifying empire. When the ship finally landed, the airlock hissed open. Lucas stepped out, the gravity of the situation weighing down on him more with each step. He was greeted by a group of Scifi soldiers, their tall, armored figures standing like statues. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light piercing through the darkness of their helmets. They didn't speak, but their cold gaze was enough to make Lucas feel like a prisoner, not a guest. The soldiers escorted him through the vast corridors of the alien palace, where everything was made of strange materials he couldn't identify. Metallic walls that hummed with energy, floors that seemed to pulse with life. They didn't stop walking until they reached a massive throne room, where the Scifi princess awaited him. Princess Zalathar sat on her throne, her posture regal and commanding. She was unlike anything Lucas had ever seen. Tall, with sharp, angular features that made her look more like a predator than a ruler. Her eyes, however, were what caught his attention most. They were dark, yet full of hidden emotions that Lucas couldn't quite read. He had been told she was a tyrant, a ruthless leader who would stop at nothing to maintain control over her people. But there was something about her presence that made him hesitate, a sense that she was not entirely what the stories had led him to believe. Zalathar's gaze fell on him as he stepped forward, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. For a brief second, Lucas swore he saw a flicker of surprise in her eyes, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by the cold indifference that was expected of her. "You've come," she said, her voice a smooth, melodic sound that echoed in the vast hall. Lucas stood tall, his mind spinning with the intensity of the moment. "I have, Your Highness, but I've been sent as tribute." She studied him for a long moment, her gaze piercing through him, as if she were reading his very soul. Then, almost to herself, she whispered, "Impossible." Lucas blinked, taken aback. The words were so quiet, so unexpected, that he almost thought he'd misheard her. He had been prepared for a cold reception, for a ruler who would demand his submission. But the princess's reaction was confusing. What had she meant by Impossible. Before he could gather his thoughts, a low murmur ran through the room. The Scifi soldiers and courtiers exchanged glances, their whispers filled with uncertainty. Had they expected this tribute to be something else? Had they hoped for someone else? Zalathar didn't seem fazed by their reactions. Her eyes never left Lucas, studying him with an intensity that made him feel like he was being stripped bare. After a long pause, she finally spoke again. "Tell me, human," she began, her voice softer now. "Do you believe you are worthy of this tribute?" Lucas hesitated, not entirely sure how to respond. Was he supposed to believe he was worthy? He wasn't even sure why he had been chosen. He wasn't the strongest or the most intelligent, but he had been trained to serve his people, and that's what he would do now. "I do not know, Your Highness," he said, his voice steady. "But I will serve as you command." Zalathar's eyes softened for the briefest moment, a flicker of something human crossing her face. But it was gone before he could be sure he'd seen it. She stood from her throne, her movements graceful and fluid, like the predator she was. "Come with me," she said.
"We have much to discuss." As they walked deeper into the palace, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary tribute.
Something about Zalathar. Something in her eyes, the way she'd whispered, "impossible," told him that his mission was far more complicated than he could have ever imagined. What did she mean by impossible? Why had she reacted that way? Lucas knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning of a much larger story, one that he might not be able to control. As Lucas followed Princess Zalathar through the labyrinth of her palace, the strange and alien architecture continued to astound him. The walls were made of shifting metals, pulsing with an eerie glow, and the floor seemed to hum beneath his feet, alive with some hidden energy. The air felt thick, charged with an unspoken power that Lucas couldn't quite understand. He had never seen anything like it in his life. Zalathar led him into a private chamber, its walls lined with translucent stones that flickered like stars. The room was simple, yet elegant, with a large window overlooking the alien world. From here, Lucas could see the vast, dark ocean stretching out to the horizon, dotted with the jagged spires of the Scifi cities. It was a breathtaking sight, but it also reminded him of how out of place he felt. "Sit," Zalathar said, motioning to a low chair in the center of the room. Her voice, though calm, carried a weight that demanded respect. Lucas obeyed, sitting down carefully, trying to maintain his composure. He was a soldier, trained for combat and strategy, but nothing in his training had prepared him for this. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to do here. He wasn't even sure why he was here in the first place. Zalathar took a seat across from him, her sharp eyes never leaving his face. The silence stretched between them, uncomfortable and thick with unspoken thoughts. Lucas shifted in his seat, but he knew better than to break the silence first. His mother had always told him that silence could be a weapon. Sometimes it spoke louder than any words could. After a long pause, Zalathar finally spoke. "You are not like the others," she said, her voice low but filled with a strange curiosity. "Why do you not fear me?" Lucas blinked, not quite sure how to answer. Fear. The word felt foreign to him. Of course, he feared the consequences of his mission. He feared failure. He feared the unknown. But Zalathar? "No, he wasn't afraid of her. I do fear," he said, his voice steady. "But fear doesn't change anything. I'm here to do what I must." Zalathar's lips curled into a faint smile, though it wasn't one of amusement. It was something else, something almost unreadable. "Interesting," she murmured, almost to herself. Then she leaned forward slightly. "Do you know what you are, human? You were sent to me as a tribute, but I wonder, why did they choose you?" Lucas met her gaze without flinching. He had thought about it before, but there was no answer. That made sense. He was no hero. He had no special skills that set him apart from the rest of his people. He had simply been chosen.
"I don't know, Your Highness," he replied honestly. "I was sent because I was the one who was chosen, but—"
Nothing more. She tilted her head, studying him intently. "You are lying," she said softly. "You are lying," she said softly. "There is something in you, something different, something they saw." Lucas frowned, confused. He had never thought of himself as special, but the way she looked at him, like she could see through him, made him wonder if there was something more to this, something beyond the obvious. "You are not just a tribute, Lucas Raynor," Zalathar continued, her voice growing more intense. "You are the key to something. A turning point, perhaps." Lucas's heart skipped a beat. The princess's words sent a shiver down his spine. What did she mean? Was this all part of some larger plan? He had been sent to be a symbol, a gift, a way to appease the Scifi. But now she spoke of him as though he were more than that. Before he could respond, she stood and walked over to a large table against the wall. She picked up something, an object that looked like a small, glowing crystal, and returned to him, placing it in his hand. "This," she said, "is a piece of the Scifi heartstone. It holds great power. It is what binds my people together, and it is the source of our strength." Lucas held the crystal in his hand, feeling its warmth. It was unlike anything he had ever touched. It hummed with an energy that resonated deep within him, like something ancient, something older than the stars themselves. He could feel the power in his fingertips, but he had no idea what it meant. "What am I supposed to do with this?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder and confusion. Zalathar's gaze softened, and for the first time since they had met, she seemed almost vulnerable. "You must understand, Lucas, this tribute, this whole ritual, is not what it seems. It was never just about you. It is about what you represent, what you can offer. This is not about submission or sacrifice. It is about breaking the cycle. A new path must be forged, and you are part of it." Lucas stared at her, still unsure of what she was asking. I don't understand," he said quietly. Zalathar took a deep breath, her expression hardening once again. "That is the problem. No one understands, not even me. For generations, the Scifi have lived by the old ways, by power and fear. But I am not like them. I want to change everything. I want my people to live freely, without this endless war, without the bloodshed." Her eyes locked onto his with a fierce intensity. "But to do that, I need help. I cannot do it alone." The weight of her words hit Lucas like a wave. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about something bigger, something far more important. He had come here thinking he was just another human in the eyes of the Scifi, a simple tribute. But now, he realized, he might be part of something that could change the fate of their entire galaxy. Zalathar's voice softened. "You are here not just because they chose you, but because you have something within you, something they do not. It is in your nature to fight, to survive, to protect, and that is why I need you." "But why me? Why not one of your own people? Why choose a human?" Zalathar stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "Because you are the key to everything. The power in you, in your race, has the potential to unlock a new future for us all. You are not just a soldier, Lucas Raynor. You are the future. The impossible future." He could feel her words burrow into his mind, planting seeds of doubt, of hope, of fear. What had he walked into? What was this truly about? Was he just a pawn in a game too large for him to understand, Or was there a deeper meaning behind it all? "I don't know if I'm the right person for this," he said quietly, the weight of the situation pressing on him. "I don't know what I can do." Zalathar's hand reached out and placed the glowing crystal back into his palm. "You may not know now, but you will. The path is already laid out for you, and when the time comes, you will know exactly what to do." For a long moment, Lucas stared at the Heartstone, the glowing light reflecting in his eyes. He had been brought here for a reason, whether he understood it or not. This was his fight now, and whatever happened next, he would have to face it. Not just for the Scifi, not just for his people, but for the future they could build together. This second part deepens the mystery surrounding Lucas and Zalathar's relationship, as well as the bigger stakes they are both caught in. If you'd like any adjustments, feel free to let me know. The days passed slowly as Lucas spent more time with Princess Zalathar in the alien palace. Each day they discussed the future of the Scifi Empire, the future of humanity, and the fragile balance between power and peace. The princess was not what he had expected. She was fierce and intelligent, yet there was a vulnerability to her that made her seem more human than alien. It was a side of her that no one else saw, and Lucas couldn't help but be drawn to it. They had started working together on plans. Small changes, but changes that could eventually reshape the Empire. Zalathar spoke of ending the ancient practices that had bound the Scifi to a cycle of war and domination. She dreamed of a galaxy where her people would no longer be forced to follow the path of destruction, but she couldn't do it alone. She needed allies, and that was where Lucas came in. One evening, as they sat together in her private chamber, the conversation took a more serious turn. Zalathar had been unusually quiet for the past few hours, her gaze lost in the distance, her fingers absently tracing the edge of the Heartstone that Lucas still carried with him. "Tell me, Lucas," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "Do you believe in change?" Lucas looked up at her, surprised by the question. It was unlike her to ask something so personal, so philosophical, but as he considered it, he realized that it was exactly what he needed to think about. "I don't know," he replied honestly. "Change can be hard. People don't always accept it, especially when it's something they've lived with for so long. But..." Zalathar nodded, her eyes narrowing as if she were weighing his words. "That is the problem, isn't it? People fear change because they fear the unknown. They fear what they don't understand." Lucas leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "I get it. But if change is for the better, then it's worth it, right? Even if it's hard?" She turned to him, a flicker of something almost like hope in her eyes. "That's what I believe too. But the truth is, I don't know how to make my people see it. The Scifi are bound by ancient traditions. They fear what might happen if they let go of the old ways, and without their support, any change is doomed to fail." "You're asking me to help you, aren't you?" Lucas said, his voice steady. Zalathar's gaze didn't waver.
"Yes, I am."
"But I don't expect you to do it alone. This will take time, and it will take trust. You're not just a tribute, Lucas. You're a symbol of something more. The Scifi may not accept me as their leader at first, but they might accept you." He didn't like the idea of being used as a symbol, a pawn in a political game. But he also understood the gravity of the situation. Zalathar was offering him a chance to help her change the course of history. It was an opportunity he couldn't ignore. "I'll help you," he said finally. "But it's going to take more than just me. You'll need to prove to your people that you're serious about these changes. They won't follow you just because you say so. You'll need to show them, not just tell them." Zalathar's lips twitched upward in the faintest of smiles. "You're right. They won't follow me easily, but I will make them listen. I'll start with the council. I'll show them that I am not just a figurehead, that I am their true leader." Lucas watched her, wondering if she truly understood what she was asking. The Scifi Council was made up of powerful individuals, each with their own interests and agendas. They were not easily swayed by words or promises. If Zalathar wanted to succeed, she would need more than just determination. She would need strategy. "What's your plan?" Lucas asked, his curiosity piqued. Zalathar paused for a moment, then leaned forward, her voice low and determined.
"I will call a council meeting, but this time it will be different.
"I will challenge their authority. I will expose their lies. The council is divided, and I will use that to my advantage." She looked at him, her eyes blazing with intensity. "You will be there with me, Lucas. You will stand by my side." Lucas nodded slowly. He had no idea what he was getting himself into, but he knew he couldn't back down now. He had come this far, and he wasn't about to leave her to fight alone. The days leading up to the council meeting were tense. Zalathar worked tirelessly, preparing her arguments and rallying her supporters. Lucas, too, found himself caught up in the political whirlwind. He wasn't a diplomat or a politician, but he had learned quickly that words could be as powerful as any weapon. He spent hours with Zalathar rehearsing speeches, discussing strategies, and learning the intricacies of the Scifi court. On the day of the council meeting, Lucas stood beside Zalathar, his nerves on edge. He could feel the tension in the air as they walked into the council chamber. The room was vast, with high ceilings and walls adorned with intricate alien designs. The Scifi council members sat at a long table, their cold eyes fixed on the princess and her human companion. Zalathar took her seat at the head of the table, her posture regal, her gaze unwavering. The council members remained silent, their expressions guarded, waiting for her to speak. "I have called you here today," Zalathar began, her voice echoing through the chamber, "to address the future of the Scifi people. We can no longer continue down the path of endless war and destruction. We must change, or we will be lost." A murmur of disbelief swept through the council. One of the elders, a tall, stern-looking Scifi, stood up, his voice filled with disdain. "Change?
You dare speak of change, Zalathar? You are no longer the leader we once followed."
"Your ideas are foolish." Zalathar's eyes narrowed. "You are wrong. My ideas are the only hope we have left. The old ways have failed us. We must adapt or die." The council member sneered. "You are nothing but a child, playing at being a ruler. You cannot lead us. The Avari will never follow you." Zalathar stood, her voice growing stronger with every word. "I will lead. I will show you the strength that lies within us, but I will not do it alone." "Lucas Raynor," she gestured to him, "is here as a symbol of what we can achieve if we work together. He represents the future of the Scifi, a future where we do not rely on fear and war to maintain control." The council fell silent, the words hanging in the air. Lucas felt the weight of their gaze, but he stood tall, knowing that this moment was bigger than him. It was about more than just survival. It was about the future of an entire race. "I have come to stand with Zalathar," Lucas said, his voice steady and clear. "I have seen the potential in her, and I believe that she can lead the Scifi to a better future."
"But it will require all of us, not just one person. We must unite, or we will all fall."
The council members exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to respond. The room was charged with tension, the silence stretching out. Then, to Lucas's surprise, one of the council members, a younger Scifi woman with striking green eyes, stood up. "I will stand with you, Zalathar. I believe in your vision. The old ways are no longer enough." Zalathar's gaze softened, and for the first time, Lucas saw the faintest trace of hope in her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The council meeting continued, but the seeds of change had been planted. Zalathar had made her first move, and there was no turning back now. As they left the council chamber, Zalathar turned to Lucas, a rare smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "We have taken the first step," she said, her voice full of quiet determination. "It is only a matter of time before the Zavari see what we can accomplish together." Lucas nodded, feeling a sense of pride well up inside him. He had come here as a tribute, but now he was something more. He was part of a future that was still uncertain. But for the first time since he had arrived on this alien world, he felt like he had a purpose.